Carolina Harding, a seasoned psychiatrist with a specialization in dissociative identity disorder, has encountered harrowing cases where criminals feign schizophrenia in pursuit of legal leniency. Coping with the relentless stress of her profession, Carolina sometimes turns to alcohol for solace. Her daughter, Sammy, currently resides with her brother Stephen during the day. Carolina's life takes a turn when she receives a call at the airport from her father and colleague, Dr. Harding, who informs her of an extraordinary medical case. He urgently requests her presence at the clinic. The briefing reveals their new patient, David Bernberg, a destitute man in a wheelchair. Carolina, initially jaded by her experiences, finds herself intrigued by this unprecedented case and accepts her father's invitation to meet David. She delves into a conversation with the wheelchair-bound patient, discovering a history marred by a life-altering accident. Inquisitive, Carolina administers psychological tests to unearth the truth. After their talk, Cara asked her father for more details about the unusual case. Dr. Harding then called David, separated by one-way glass, asking if he could hear Adam. Strangely, after a minute, David's voice transformed into Adam's. Cara decided to engage with Adam, who appeared vastly different from the mild-mannered David. They discussed her husband's tragic robbery 3 years ago. Cara was unfazed by the sudden shift in behavior, having encountered such manipulative tactics before. Cara's doubts deepened when Adam, seemingly able to walk, inquired about leaving. It became clear that her initial assumption was incorrect, and Adam was actually David. Dr. Harding had already recognized this. They later visited her brother Stephen, who was absorbed in a new project, and Cara received Adam's file from her father. Meanwhile, back at the clinic, David, confined to his wheelchair, continued to hear voices, causing Cara significant anxiety and sleeplessness. He switched between Adam and David during lengthy conversations with Dr. Harding, a transition that sent shivers down her spine. Determined to unravel the mystery, Cara decided to explore Adam's file. Turned out the police had found this seemingly disabled vagrant on the street, who initially identified himself as David. In the realm of psychiatry, this case stood out as a perplexing phenomenon, among other enigmatic details Cara was uncovering. Examining the X-rays revealed an astonishing truth. The images portrayed two distinct individuals, Adam and David. Though Cara was incredulous, her father insisted these images provided undeniable evidence of an unprecedented situation. Determined, Cara delved into the mystery, starting at the library where she found David Bernberg in an alumni yearbook. The enigma surrounding Adam persisted. That night, Cara, concealing her shaken faith after her husband's tragic demise, recited a prayer while tucking in her daughter Sammy. Later, her colleague Charles called, promising Adam Saber's medical chart, but his deteriorating health delayed the delivery. After the call, an eerie transformation began to unfold. Cara, witnessing the strange occurrences, resolved to visit Mrs. Berber, David's mother. The neighborhood was desolate, marked by a prominent cross adorned with ritual items. Her inquiry for directions from a nearby man with a snake went unanswered. She continued her journey to an outlying house, where her knocks went unheeded. She persisted in her investigation and confirmed David Bernberg's residence there. Following distant singing, she encountered a weary woman, explaining her quest for David. The woman revealed David's demise in 1982, not by accident, but after a debilitating fall. David endured for 3 years before seeking unconventional treatments from an innovative town doctor to restore his mobility, which proved futile. His mysterious disappearance, followed by the discovery of his lifeless body in the woods a week later, was intentional, orchestrated by unknown hands. Tearfully recounting these events, David's mother believed his deviation from faith and pursuit of scientific answers had sealed his tragic fate. She felt the Lord wouldn't forgive those who lost their faith. Cara later discovered the case remained unsolved and shared her theory with her father over coffee. She proposed that Adam Saber, placed in an orphanage at age 6 after his mother's passing, had absorbed details about David's case from TV as a coping mechanism for his mental trauma. If her theory held, Adam didn't suffer from dissociative identity disorder, strengthening her resolve to help him. To assist in her mission, Cara sought Mrs. Bernberg's aid, explaining that Adam had created his version of her late son. However, when Adam joined them, he failed to recognize Mrs. Berber, adding complexity to the situation. The heart-wrenching tragedy occurred 25 years ago when Adam was just 6. He had been insulated from the news until a fateful phone call changed everything. Suddenly, a surge of anger led to a slap, and she departed, leaving David behind, who continued to call for his mom. This puzzling twist prompted Cara to seek answers at a church, unable to rationally comprehend the situation. In an attempt to shed light on the matter, Cara took Adam, now embodying David, to the location where David had passed away 25 years ago. There, David shared his memories of a snowy scene with an adjacent cabin and a menacing black silhouette he identified as the devil, causing him to become hysterical. Disturbed by his reaction, Cara decided to relocate him, but encountered an unexpected disappearance. In her subsequent encounter with a man named Wesley, who wasn't David or Adam, he aggressively demanded answers about his presence. Cara attempted to stall for time until the orderly arrived, revealing the man's name as Wesley. She later informed her father about their patient's 3 distinct personalities, a fact he was already aware of, allowing his daughter to uncover the truth independently. Cara visited Wesley's grave at the cemetery, discovering he was a rock musician who chose to leave his life in 1994, around the time Adam Saber was in prison. During their conversation, she showed him an old newspaper article about Wesley K's demise, triggering a rush of memories. This led to another personality shift, with David now in control. He whispered that someone was present and hummed his mother's favorite song, composed after the accident. Cara developed a new hypothesis, suspecting that Adam had witnessed David's final moments in his childhood, including the creation of the song. In her quest to understand Adam's past, Cara arrives at a neglected address. Amidst the stench, she made a shocking discovery in the bathroom, a lifeless body. The police arrived, naming Adam Saber as the prime suspect. Cara grappled with the disturbing scene for a prolonged period. The trauma deepened when she found Adam Saber with her daughter, Sammy. Panicked, she called the detective and rushed to her daughter's side. Adam tried to persuade Cara that she had invited him and spoken with him over the phone the previous day. To her horror, she realized that a 4th personality, Dr. Charles, had taken over Adam at home. Sammy, distressed, revealed that she had lost faith in God and connected it to her father's disappearance, along with unsettling sensations in her back. A call from her father brought the somber news of Charles's passing, hinting at an even more enigmatic and ominous dimension to Adam's condition. Reviewing archive footage, Cara noticed a mysterious black shadow near a sleeping Adam. Detective Danton's interrogation revealed that the crime had religious motivations, unsettling everyone involved. Adam's haunting memories included glimpses of that same man in the mirror, marking a series of perplexing transformations. Sensing the need for a discreet conversation, Cara approached the detective, mentioning a cross etched at the crime scene, which led her back to Mrs. Berber's house for answers. Mrs. Bernberg alluded to the prevalence of black magic in the area. Determined, Cara ventured toward the valley's end, where peculiar inhabitants resided. Seeking a midwife, she insisted on uncovering the significance of the symbolic cross in Adam's home. The midwife, however, refused to divulge further details, convinced that Cara wouldn't believe the truth. At her sister's behest, Stephen scrutinized hospital archive footage, converting it into sound. The results astonished him, revealing distressing screams. Alarmed, Cara rushed to investigate, stumbling upon a sinister ritual. These people practiced soul transmigration. The midwife detected Cara's espionage and revealed a vessel inscribed as a refuge for souls. Cara received a voicemail from Detective Danton, revealing that Adam Saber had been released into her father's custody due to insufficient grounds for detention. A call from her brother uncovered the mystery of the shadow in the video, a captured sound wave, an incantation. As Stephen played the recording, Cara realized that these incantations had turned Adam into a sanctuary for foreign souls. Determined, Cara set her sights on a historical community to seek answers. Meanwhile, Stephen cared for Sammy, who complained of a scratchy throat and strange sensations in her back. Cara learned of a 20th century flu epidemic in the area, associated with Reverend Christian Moore, a self-proclaimed healer who had persuaded people to rely on faith instead of medicine. Unbeknownst to them, the Reverend had secretly vaccinated himself and his family, causing many deaths. When this truth came to light, the valley's residents sought revenge, bringing the Reverend to the midwife for her form of justice. Christian Moore underwent a harrowing ritual, after which the midwife whispered an incantation that transformed him into a haven for non-believers. A call from the detective alerted Cara to a grave mistake, prompting a swift dispatch of a police car to her father. She urgently contacted him, instructing him to flee. In reality, Adam Saber was no longer among the living. The body in his house was Adam himself, while someone else resided at home. Dr. Harding was, in fact, Christian Moore. Before he could escape, he underwent a harrowing transformation. With her father's unresponsive condition, Cara called the orderly to check, but it was too late. Christian had become a vessel for another non-believing soul. The orderly discovered Dr. Harding lifeless and informed Cara over the phone, a loss she found hard to accept. The priority now was hearing her daughter's voice. Over the phone, Stephen informed Cara that he was taking Sammy to the hospital due to her strange symptoms. This revelation led Cara to the horrifying realization that her non-believing daughter would be next. She implored her brother to take Sammy to the midwife, as the hospital wouldn't suffice. However, Stephen deemed it nonsense and declined. Suddenly, Christian, speaking in Dr. Harding's voice, blocked their path with his car. Stephen and his niece barricaded themselves at home while Christian, introducing himself as Steph's father, shouted they were in grave danger. Despite skepticism, Christian managed to break in, and Stephen lost consciousness. Sammy had been talking to her mother on the phone throughout. In a desperate move, Cara asked her daughter to activate the loudspeaker and called for David, causing Christian's mobility to falter. Upon regaining consciousness, Stephen realized his sister was right and took his niece to the midwife. Meanwhile, Christian, in Dr. Harding's car, pursued them. Cara reunited with her daughter and brother, embarking on a perilous journey together. In shock, Stephen initially failed to notice his injuries as Cara led her daughter into the foreboding house. Christian soon caught up with Stephen, who remained determined not to yield. The midwife, confronting Sammy, conveyed that losing faith in God was more terrifying than losing loved ones, leaving her powerless to intervene. Realizing that she had to take Sammy as far away as possible, Cara comprehended the risk to her daughter's soul. Beside the car, she discovered her lifeless brother with no keys in sight. Christian approached, and with Sammy in her arms, Cara fled into the woods, pursued by Christian. As mother and daughter hid, Sammy's fate became sealed, and her soul joined the refuge. In despair, Cara watched as Christian spoke in her daughter's voice. Despite everything, Cara managed to soothe Christian and invited him closer. Embracing Christian, Cara recited a prayer, and in a poignant twist, she deprived him of oxygen. This act liberated all the trapped souls, and Sammy, regaining her faith, returned to her mother. Tears of happiness flowed, but when Sammy began humming David's song, Cara realized that her daughter had become the new vessel.